Welcome to Neon Mushroom. Welcome back if you've been here before. I'm Adrian. That's kind of boring. You guys all know who I am. You don't know who this is, but you do now. It's Mr. Guy Scott, pilot of a couple decks you've seen over here on Neon Mushroom, our EDH gameplay series. Decks like Zakama, Primal Calamity, decks like Niv Mizzet, Payrun, and decks like the one we're doing a deck tech on here today, Greven, Predator Captain. So Guy, you and I have recorded this video once before, and it ended up being really long. So here, a quick caveat. Like I was saying to Guy on screen, so it doesn't need the repetition, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. We have Greven, Predator Captain, deck tech. There's 99 cards because it's a commander deck, and by going over every single card intimately, the deck tech ends up being like 50 minutes to an hour, so you can't do that. So we're going to kind of like give you the most important cards in each slot we're going to go over. That said, we're going to jump right into it. Guy, why don't you read for anyone who doesn't have access to this information right off the bat? What does Greven do?
Greven Predator Captain is a 5-mana 5/5 creature. It's 3 colorless, a black and a red, and he has Menace. He also says he gets +X/+0, where X is the amount of life you've lost this turn. His second ability is whenever he attacks, you can sacrifice a creature to draw cards equal to its power, and you lose life equal to its toughness.
Okay, so what we seem to have here is an aggressively slanted commander, which costs 5, so that's a little awkward. But he's aggressive, and he wants to be a value engine. You want to trade resources for other resources, whether it be life for cards or bodies for cards, and I guess it'd be bodies and life for cards. Greven can turn things into cards, and he can turn things into a lot of commander damage functionally.
Yes.
Okay, so with that in mind, some of you may have already put this together, but for the sake of continuity, what if you had to like generalize what your game plan is, what you'd like to do in like a quick half a paragraph, worth of words? How would you word it? What would you say this deck's game plan is?
So you're trying to ramp. You're trying to play creatures that have a low CMC with a high power, high toughness. You're trying to sacrifice those creatures when you attack to increase your damage, draw cards, and then you either want to find cards that gain you life or cards that let you pay life on demand to just one-shot somebody out of nowhere.
Because it turns out all you need for commander damage is 21.
Yes.
And that just kills your opponent.
Yes.
So there's obviously some other stuff we're going to go through, like you probably want to gain life. I don't know if you mentioned that. I can barely hear you, even though this room's silent and it's just us. That was a joke. You're talking fine. I'm just deaf. So you're probably going to want to gain life. And we'll get into all that. But now that we have kind of a general idea on how Griffin wants to work, we can get into some of the cards in the 99 now that we have a game plan, which is sweet. Greven's a 5-drop, which can be a little awkward because in a game of Commander, in some games of Commander, turn 5 is still really early. People are still building their battle cruisers and they're still ramping and casting their cultivates. But in pods like ours, sometimes you're just dead on turn 5. Yeah. And you want your commander up before turn 5 if it's possible. Maybe there's some ways we can get around playing your commander on turn 5 and still being in the game. We can get into that in a little bit. To start, we have to ramp. We have to get our Greven out very quickly. Guy, talk to me about how the heck we get Greven out before turn 5.
If you're playing, as much ramp as you can. You're playing your Soul Rings, your Signets, your Talismans. You get to play a cue card called Agent of Stromgald. So 1 mana, 1/1.
Yeah.
It's red, makes black mana. That's it. I'd never heard of this card until the professor did a video on it. So
it's the weirdest Absence Pilgrim ever.
It's the weirdest Absence Pilgrim, exactly. And there's plenty of other options that will be in the deck.
Yeah, here, I'll take these and give it a look. Like I said, we can't physically go over every single card, but in the overlay you're seeing here, we're obviously going to have like all the different types of ramp that this deck plays. And the reason I'm laying these out is to get a quick count. It looks like we have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 just dedicated pieces of ramp, which is actually a few more cards than the recommended 10 that guys like Jimmy and Josh recommend from the command zone, which I think is good because this deck actually really wants to get its commander out at least a turn early, usually 1 or 2 turns. At least from the games you've won, it usually seems like Greven comes down on turn 3. When Greven does that, it's usually bad news for most of us. So we kind of ramp into Greven. Okay, the next thing I want to look at is we were talking about Greven's plan. And the first thing you'd like to try to do is like sacrifice a body to Greven to convert that creature's body into damage and raw card advantage.
Yes.
What are some examples of some cards that really let us do this in one way or another? Because I know you have some cards that you don't even necessarily want to sack to Greven all the time.
Correct. Yeah. So I think like the poster child for this deck is a Blue Pine Prototype.
Yeah.
It's a 2-mana 5/5. That's it. It's got some other text on it. It doesn't even matter. It's just a very cheap colorless card that you sacrifice. You draw 5 cards and lose 5 life. It's great.
In context with Greven, it's like the most messed up. And like Ancestral Recall is a good card. What if it cost 1 more and gave you 2 more cards and then added 5 commander damage and did, just all that stuff? It's busted. Lupine Prototype's busted in this deck.
And it's one of the few homes that it gets.
And you can cast it for 1 Soul Ring, which is pretty good.
Soul Ring.
1 Soul Ring.
The other poster child is Wall of Blood. This is one of my favorites. It's a 3-mana 0/2 wall. Wow, sounds pretty bad.
Yeah.
Except you can pay 1 life. This creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So you pay a bunch of life. It gets bigger. You draw a bunch of cards. Someone's gonna die.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting about that card is, like we were saying, it doesn't do the thing that Greven wants to be doing necessarily, which is sacrificing bodies. It's a free life loss outlet.
Yes.
Which is something that Greven absolutely adores, and maybe there's going to be a few more cards we get into that do that thing. But run through I know you had a few more examples that are just amazing, like this one right here.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites. They're all my favorites, but Phyrexian Soul Gorger. It's a 3-mana 8/8.
That's so messed
colorless. But the downside is there's a cumulative upkeep of sacrificing creature. That doesn't matter though, because you basically play it and then you sack it in the same turn.
Yeah, that card never sees an upkeep.
No.
Ideally it does. Yeah, exactly. If it does, you're probably not winning the game.
You're going to lose that game.
You're going to lose. You're not going to make it. And then this is actually still in standard.
Yeah, Rotting Regisaur. It's very similar to the Phyrexian Soul Gorger, where it's a high power, low CMC, a hard downside. You have to discard a card of your upkeep, but it doesn't last an upkeep. You cash it in very early.
Greven's really good at making cards that are like historically not that great. Or Rotting Regisaur is pretty good, but you have to like work to make it work in like the context of standard, for instance.
Yeah.
Greven's really good at just like throwing all that out the window.
Yeah.
Like why this card's bad, forget about it. We don't talk about it.
The whole paying life to get bigger is a very fun avenue to explore.
Now, what package here? I'll take those. That way I can in post edit. There's obviously more than just the 4 cards we talked about. And you'll just want to take a look at them. Take a look at the deck list that's going to be posted in the description and tapped out. That way you can see the 99. But here you're seeing a graphic with all the other cards that kind of work in that vein of making Greven work. You'll see a Reanimate, and I did want to mention the Reanimate because it's not a creature. But it kind of represents another copy of any creature you've already had access to within a game.
Yeah.
Also, it can do this little double duty of like letting you send Greven to the graveyard. If you know you're going to be able to like reanimate it the next turn. Mm-hmm. It's just a really good way to like not get zonked by a board wipe.
That's even crazier if you have a way to give it haste.
Yeah, exactly.
You will lose the life and he's already big.
Yeah, it could be a one shot.
It could be.
It could be like a 1 to 3 mana one shot.
The one shot heard around the world.
Exactly. Bingo. We're losing a lot of life. 21 plus 21 plus 21 is more than 40.
Yes.
Maybe the next thing we should talk about is like how we don't die to our own game plan.
Life gain.
Life gain.
Do it.
You can play Vito in this deck. You probably can't play Vito in this deck, but I'm sick and tired of seeing Vito. He's already getting old. Iden's playing him in his Exquisite Blood Vampires deck. But you've got some other ways to gain life.
Yeah. The first and foremost is like if you're going EDH rec, this is the first one you're going to see is Basilisk Collar. It's a 1-mana artifact equipment. Pay 2 to equip. It gets Death Touch and Lifelink. The Death Touch doesn't really matter. The lifelink is all you care about. This
card used to be quite expensive, but it was just reprinted.
Unfortunately, it's just reprinted.
In that new set. What was it called? Double Masters. They reprinted it in Double Masters.
Double money.
Double money. Or less money if you had a position in Basilisk Collar.
Don't do that.
It looks like we got a few more here. Maybe we should talk about this one last because it makes the least amount of sense.
Yeah.
Continue.
You got your Lockstyle Warhammer. It's just another typical artifact that gains you life. It has some other text like giving +3/+0. It has Trample. It's kind of expensive because it's 3 to play, 3 to equip, but like you're trying to get as much lifelink as you can.
It also just turns that engine of drawing cards with Greven and damage. It takes the downside and nearly eliminates all of it, which is really important.
And just gives it another layer of evasion. And you kind of scratch the bottom of the barrel for lifelink,
right?
Because you do play one-shot lifelink effects like Rush of Vitality, +1/+0 lifelink and indestructible.
You don't have it here, but I'm sure you played Blessing of Belzenok.
Yes.
Is another one, just one-shot, cheap lifelink things. And then this last one, I think you just want to talk about because you like the card. Because it doesn't make the most sense in the deck, I don't think.
Yeah, but it's just sort of like Shadow. It's really just in here because we have a sword and I want to play it, and this guy can pick it up.
Play the cards you have.
Play the cards you have.
Yeah.
But it has some relevant stuff where it gains 3 life. It gains you 3 life, and you can return creatures from your graveyard to your hand, which is obviously kind of useful.
It also gives it protection from the most relevant removal colors.
White and black.
White and black. So we can lose a bunch of life and draw a bunch of cards. We can gain a bunch of life so we're not dead to our own commander's ability. And I see that you have like a grouping of cards that kind of abuses the losing life strategy, but in more of a focus. You're dead right now kind of a way. So let's go over some of those cards.
The best one out of all of them, in my opinion, is Necropotence.
Wait, is Necropotence a good magic card?
I think Necropotence might be a good card.
Wild. Necro's good.
For those of you who don't know, 3 mana enchantment. You skip your draw phase. You can pay life to draw cards ad nauseum.
Yeah, there are some nuances to Necro. Like I guess we could read it verbatim, but man, that's just a paragraph, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't, when you discard into exile, which is important. So any of you who are thinking that you're going to have like this crazy graveyard synergy with Necro, they thought about that even back in 19, whatever the hell this is from. And if you think you're going to be able to get access to the cards immediately, you can pay life for cards at any point, but you only pick those cards up at your end step.
Yes.
So those are just things that are important, but let's look through some of the other ones. Necro's obviously the best one to start with. It's the best one.
That's the big guy.
So good.
The second best one is probably Treasonous Ogre. It's a 4 mana 2/3. It has Dethrone, but that doesn't really matter. What matters,
I don't even know what Dethrone does. I don't care. Don't tell me. I don't want to
know. You can pay 3 life. This is not Dethrone. This is this card's ability. You can pay 3 life to add a red mana. That's it.
What are you going to do with red mana, guy? What are you going to do? Oh, you don't need to do anything?
You don't need to do anything.
Yeah, you're not using the red mana. Just like you would play a card that costs like 2 black that just said pay 2 life. Period. Just like period.
Yes.
It's just repeatable. That's awesome. And you can actually use Treasonous Ogre's ability. Interestingly enough, he synergizes with your commander a little bit as the commander tech starts to creep up a little bit. When you use him to pay for like the red blip and all the colorless in his commander cost. If you have like a Hall of the Bandit Lord that combos with this to just kill your opponent, which is really neat. No, you got a few more, and I actually did want to talk about most of these. Like this one specifically is like so cool.
Yeah, that one's my favorite. So we'll just hop right into it since we're talking about it. It's Hatred.
Hatred. You probably couldn't see that, but you can definitely see the graphic I've edited in.
There you go. Thank you.
And it's his face.
It's his face. It's an old card from Exodus, and it just has Greven's face on it, like that. It's a 5-mana instant, which is kind of bad, but you get to pay X life, where target creature gets +X/+0 until end of turn. It's literally Greven's ability on a card.
How many times have you used this card, like in game?
I think I've at least once or twice. It's kind of hard to use.
So it hasn't just been never used. Like you've used it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's like because it's a 5-drop, you know.
It's hard to use, but like you can't not play it.
No, it's Greven's face. It's like, yeah, you have to play that card.
You have to play that card. And
then you got a couple more. This is Fire Covenant's also such a cool card. That's kind of specific to this deck. There are certainly other decks that could play it, but no deck really abuses it the way this deck can.
Yeah, no way. But I think it is starting to become more popular. It's a 3-mana instant, 1 colorless, a black, and a red. And you could deal X damage divided any way you choose amongst any number of target creatures, where X is the amount of life that you pay.
And you know what the best part is? You could like get rid of all the text that says deal damage. Still play this card. That's what I'm realizing about your build of this deck, and probably like full disclosure, you modeled this after Josh Laquai's build a little bit, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So thanks, Papa Josh Laquai from the Command Zone. I think this deck is. I've seen both lists, and Josh, I think his is better than yours. But I also think he has more free time than you, so we'll call it a draw. But yeah, Fire Covenant's so good. Mm-hmm. And then Plunge into Darkness. Want to just read that card really quick, because this is another really good one.
Yeah, so it's kind of a weird one, but it'll make sense in a second. So it's a 2-mana instant, and it says, choose one. You can sacrifice any number of creatures, and you gain 3 life for each creature sacrificed this way.
Wow.
Not very important. It could come up. But the gas is here. Or you can pay X life, and then look at the top X cards of your library, put one of those in your hand, and remove the rest from the game. So it's almost like an instant speed tutor that lets you pay life. So you could kill someone, find the card that you need to set yourself up.
I think I'll pay 16 life.
Oh.
Or did you not block Greven?
Uh-oh.
Or are you dead?
Did I also find one of my lifelink cards that are instant speed? Oh.
Huh. Uh-oh. I gained 5 more life than I put into Plunge.
Exactly.
It's pretty busted. So yeah, these are just ways to kind of like one-shot your opponent, but the best part is even the worst of them, like Treasonous Ogre doesn't seem to have, like, pay 3 life for a red mana, it could come up, but this deck doesn't have like a ton of mana sinks, it doesn't seem like.
No, but there is a lot of like, you're trying to do a lot in the same turn.
Yeah, just trying to as many game actions as possible over the course of a turn. So yeah, exactly. Like all these cards, like just they make you pay life, which is good enough to kill people, but on top of that, they do other stuff, which is like, wow. Wow. I want to talk a little bit. We're kind of getting toward the end here, and I'll let you kind of decide what direction you want to go, because we got a few more little piles to go over.
Yeah. I think it's we'll just go straight into removal.
Removal, and you get to play some removal that is annoyingly synergistic with Greven.
Yeah.
Namely like these.
Those. Although everyone, if you can play Snuff Out, you probably should.
You probably should play Snuff Out, but you should actually probably play Deadly Rollick, which you don't have in this deck.
Also that.
But it's because we don't have an extra copy in the house. It's not because it shouldn't go in here.
And I spent all my money on Vampire Tutors.
Yeah, and they're like $100 a piece, so that'll do. All right, let's go over this removal, I guess we'll call it.
Yeah.
And this isn't necessarily every piece of cardboard that can remove in your deck, just like the 4 pieces you'd like to showcase a little bit.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So start wherever you like.
So Devour and Shadow is
my favorite.
It's probably like one of the hallmark removal cards in this deck. It's 2 black, instant, destroy target creature. There's no caveat. It can't be regenerated. And then you lose life equal to that creature's toughness.
Oh, what a downside.
Wow.
Oh, man, you gotta lose.
Yeah,
man.
It's hard. It's hard to play.
Oh, Zakama died. It's got 9 power. Oh, jeez. So gosh. Yeah, this is like, it's just going to be like a broken record at this point. Every single card in the deck kind of does that thing that Greven goes like, yeah, keep doing that thing. So that's cool. Continue. Feel free.
Yeah, Snuff Out. It's 4 mana instant.
It's not 4 mana.
That's the
It's 4 mana.
If you control a swamp, you can pay for life, and you can just cast it for free. You destroy target non-black creature, it can't be regenerated.
Yeah, just a phenomenal card. Actually, I was saying Deadly Rollick, but Snuff Out actually might be slightly better in this deck.
A little bit.
Kinda...
Exiling's pretty good, but you want to pay life.
Speaking of cards that are normally strictly worse but are better in this deck, I have some lands I want to talk about at the end of this video. But before we do...
Yeah. Just another sort of like cute pet card that's actually kind of good is Font of Agonies. It's a 1 mana enchantment. Whenever you pay life, you can put that many blood counters on it. And then you can pay 2 mana, remove 4 to destroy target creature.
If you have like a repeatable source of like individual instance of losing life, like Necro, you could just like on the stack put 4 blood counters onto it and kill something for however many black and colorless mana pairings you have.
And like if you're in a pinch, that you can go like fetch, lose a life, shock, lose 2 more life, use one of your pain lands. That's 4.
That's 4. Yeah, that's absurd. And then this one, I'm going to get to this one because this deck tech is in response to a video that just came out that actually the deck I was playing won, the Marin deck won, but the deck I wanted to cover based on audience response was people want to see Greven, so that's why we're doing this here. This removal spell is Chaos Warp. For any of you who didn't catch that episode, go check it out. But I'm going to spoil a thing that happens. He Chaos Warps a permanent, can't remember what it was. It turns into a Protean Hulk, and I have a sacrifice outlet. If you don't know what that means, go check the game out, because I'm not going to get into that interaction. I won the game before my turn 5 or something like that. Woo! It was awesome. Chaos Warp, I didn't do anything to deserve to win that game. We've got removal. Yeah. Let's talk about these, and then those probably makes the most sense.
I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah. You go ahead and lead in with these ones.
These ones, yeah. So
what would you call this pile?
This is your protection,
which is really weird because we're in black-red.
Yeah, not blue.
But it turns out there's a surprising amount of ways to protect your commander outside of like the blue-white part of the color pie.
Yeah.
Blue like Bant are the colors that protect things.
Yeah, there's like no stop. Oh.
Yeah, and this color pie is like like Thunder Chad. I don't need to protect anything, but it turns out there's actually some really good ways to protect your Greven.
Yeah, so as your opponents will quickly figure out, you're playing this big, scary meanie who gets really big and kills people in 1 hit, so they're going to try and kill him.
It's the only way to really win the game. Yeah, this deck isn't like, you're not like building up to some value engine outside of your commander.
You're building a gun.
If your Greven ever gets imprisoned in the moon, game over.
That's why you have Chaos Warp.
That's why you have Chaos Warp.
So these protection spells, the best one, in my opinion, is Imp's Mischief. It's a 2 mana instant, 1 colorless, 1 black. You change the target of a target spell with a single target, and you lose life equal to that spell's converted mana cost.
Not only is
The
it
train keeps going.
Not only is it black misdirection, but like it does the Greven thing that you want to be doing anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that one's really good. The second best one, and this one might be a little bit better, is Deflecting Swap.
It's just a new one. Most people know what that card does now, but yeah, like you can read it.
You get it. It's if you have your commander, you can cast it for free. You redirect a spell or ability.
And it doesn't have to have a single target, which is important. Most of these redirect cards need to have a single target. This lets you choose new targets.
Yes.
So if someone casts Casualties of War, you can just straight up be like,
that was mine.
That's pretty cool. Check this out. Blow up your land, your artifact, your enchantment, your planeswalker, your creature. You lose the game.
Yeah, it's
pretty good.
It can be devastating. All for the low price of no mana.
Yeah.
So then you've got some of your unique cards that this deck is to play, like Bolt Bend. It's 4 mana instant. You can change the target spell or ability. You get it. But the caveat is it costs 3 less to cast if you control a creature to power 4 or greater.
I had to reset my camera because it's DSLR, so you can continue.
Boom. The last one in this little package is one that I'm still trying out, but I really like the idea.
It's can be so good.
It can be, but you gotta,
provided you set it up.
Yeah, exactly. Not of this world. Some of you probably already know this one. 7 mana, tribal instant.
7 mana.
7 mana. Counter target.
What's the tribal?
Eldrazi.
Eldrazi.
Yeah, super cool. Counter target spell or ability that targets a permanent you control. It costs 7 less to cast if you control a creature with power 7 or more.
Turns out that Greven's a 5-power creature.
Yes.
And with the amount of ways you can just make 2 of your life disappear, this costs 7 less. It's kind of funny that this says it costs 7 less instead of it's free. A lot of these say you can pay without paying the mana cost.
Yeah.
But this one literally reduces itself by its mana cost. Which is interesting. I don't know. It doesn't really matter, probably. Except for like super niche interactions.
Yeah, if there's like some sort of weird stacks effect out. But yeah, that's a pretty good point.
It's just weird. Yeah, I don't think it means anything, but it's weird.
It's funny how wordings of things.
Wording, yeah, exactly. So we've been through most of the key stuff. You guys probably have a really good idea on why some card selections were made, why some of these cards are in the deck. Before we wrap the video up, I see this pile over here of cards that like you didn't even want to talk about because they're kind of weird one-off cards, but I wanted to talk about them because like they're actually really cool in the deck. But before those, I think your mana base is really important. And we can't go over every little cool thing in the mana base that we're doing because this video is already pushing like 20 minutes. But what we can do is just talk about like why Greven's mana base is so important, kind of in a nutshell. Yeah, that makes sense.
Beyond just having your colors.
Having your colors is pretty easy in 2-color Commander.
It's great. It's one of my favorite things.
But losing life.
The train keeps going.
There's some lands that do that.
There sure are. The best one. There's a tie for the best one. Ancient Tomb. You pay 2 life, you get 2 mana. It's great.
The best part is you don't have to use the mana. There's nothing on the card. I checked. I checked.
You can just lose 2 life.
Yeah, you can just lose 2 life. Your opponent can be like, I'm going to path your Greven. And you're like, I'm going to add 2 colorless mana to my mana pool. Not of this world.
Forget about it.
No. So that's pretty cool. I just want to point out that Tarnished Citadel looks so good next to Ancient Tomb.
Oh, it sure does.
Yeah. I already said the name, so you can go ahead and read that one.
So it's pretty straightforward. You can either add a colorless, or you can add 1 mana of any color, but you lose 3 life.
Again, you don't have to use the mana. Womp womp.
Yeah. So there are scenarios where, like, depending on the lands that you have in play, you can just start pumping up your Greven without having to sacrifice a creature. And it's really hard to interact with mana.
You can do it before combat and use the mana.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of a fun meme to be like, you don't even need to use the mana, haha. Now, you can use it too, if you want. Like, you can be like spells, but also...
Right.
Also, if I tap my Ancient Tomb and my Tarnished Citadel, Greven's a 10-10.
Yeah,
or whatever, or a 10-5 or whatever. Yeah. And then Sulphurous Springs. Very good art for Sulphurous Springs you pick here.
Yes,
I say that because I got you this one.
Yes,
and
thank you.
Obviously, you can pay a life for functionally free. I mean, it gives you a mana, but it doesn't cost you a resource that's non-renewable, which is important. And then you can talk about like the best land in your deck. But I think it's the best land in your deck.
Probably the best land in this deck is Hall of the Bandit Lord. This probably isn't a surprise to many people. Giving your commander haste is really good. But also being able to pay life while you do it is really good in Greven.
And you don't have to use the mana. For a moment, I actually thought you had to. Do you not have to?
it won't get haste if you don't. If you just activate.
But
this,
you can just activate it before combat damage. Like
yeah,
Tarnish
you can
does,
still still just activate this, pay 3 life.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
mana base is a really important part of the strategy. You can really sneak in the extra commander damage. All you need is for your opponent kitty cornered you to not be paying perfect attention. Go, no blocks, I guess, and they're just dead. Yeah. And then they go, oh, I didn't know you had that. Takes these backs, and then you're like, nah, son.
I'm already in the red zone.
He doesn't know how to go back. He doesn't have any concept of time.
There's no reverse.
Yeah. It's all cool. Some stuff I wanted to bring light to because I know it's in the deck. This is a little interaction that's really funny. There's a Badlands in this deck.
Yes.
A dead-ass Badlands, the old actual dual land. And the funny thing is that in this situation, in the context of Greven,
it's worse than Blood Crypt.
It's worse than Blood Crypt. Blood Crypt can deal more damage.
Which you want to do.
Which you want to do. You always fetch for the Badlands first so you can save the Blood Crypt to deal extra damage.
Yep.
It's hilarious. Obviously, we play fetches in order to achieve that. And then, that's kind of the deck. I guess the only thing else to go through really quick before we close out the video is just some cards that I thought were cool. Cards that you would probably say we don't need to necessarily play in this deck.
Yeah, it's like they're between that and like not really having a home.
They don't fit into any of our like pseudo piles.
Right. They don't. Yeah. The one caveat is Silent Arbiter. I think would go into most builds. 4 mana, 1/5. No more than one creature can attack each combat, and no more than one creature can block each combat.
This has to go in every Greven deck, right? That's just perfect.
It seems pretty good.
Menace plus this is unblockable.
Yes.
Wow.
Also, you're going to get attacked less, which means that your life total is going to stay higher throughout the game, so you can kill your friends faster.
Do you lose life equal to toughness or power?
You lose life equal to toughness, you draw equal to power.
You can even use it. It's a 1/5.
You could do that.
Not that it comes up, but it's a thing that can come up. It's all your opponents are dead, you got one opponent left.
You do what you gotta do.
You do what you gotta do. Sometimes you sacrifice your Silent Arbiter.
The second one is
this one should be in every Greven deck.
I would try to put in most. Seize the Day, for those of you who don't know, 4 mana sorcery. You untap target creature, you get an extra combat, and it has flashback for 3. It's pretty straightforward.
This is better than an extra turn in this deck.
It's
because an extra turn would reset the loss of life this turn. So Greven wouldn't have the same PT. You wouldn't have the same buffs that you got from losing life.
Exactly, yeah.
So getting an extra turn is just straight up better, or getting an extra combat step is straight up better than an extra turn in this context.
So cool. There's a dark world where you can kill everyone in one turn. If you can get him to 21, you go attack, cast the first half of it, get your extra combat, attack, get the second activation out of it, attack.
All you need 7 mana and a 21 power Greven.
I'm pretty sure Josh Lee Quai will send you like a little award in the mail.
Oh yeah, you get invited to be on game nights. You get a reward.
Oh yeah. They give you they said that.
That's a thing they said for legal reasons. This is a joke.
Reasons.
Continue.
The last 2 cards are just kind of pet fun cards, mostly kind of filler. Key of the City, 2 mana artifact. You discard a card up to 1 creature. It gets unblockable. Pretty good.
This is the first card I've seen in your deck that like I'm not going to look at anyone weird for playing it, but also cut this card.
Yeah, it's
play Grim Tutor.
It really, I just need to
play Grim Tutor.
Yeah.
And then we've got this is actually a card I was surprised we almost didn't talk about because it's just it's a cool card.
Yeah,
and a cool commander in its own right.
Yes, definitely. Chainer, Nightmare Adept, came in the same precon as Greven. 4 mana, 2 colorless, black and red for a 3/2. You can discard a card to cast a creature from your graveyard once per turn. And then whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if you didn't cast it from your hand, it gains haste until the next turn. Really, it's just a way for you to recur your creatures that you've been drawing, that you've been sacrificing to draw cards and lose life.
This second line of text means Greven has haste, right?
If you cast him from
your hand,
whenever a non-token creature. Oh no, he gets haste too.
He gets haste. He gets Greven haste.
That just gives Greven haste.
Wow.
Yeah, they just high five.
Chainer's pretty cool in this deck.
Yeah, I like him. But I haven't gotten to play with him yet, and he almost feels like, in a weird way, kind of almost slow because he's 4 mana. If you were
min-maxing the hell out of this deck and over-optimizing it, these like the Key to the City, the Chainer, your Sword of Light and Shadow, most of the other stuff like maybe Thran Dynamo. Yeah, definitely. These are cards that I could see cutting, but
yeah, there's nothing wrong.
Magic's supposed to be fun.
Magic is
supposed to be fun.
And that's why we're playing Greven.
That's why we're playing Greven. That's why you path Greven.
It's fun.
Every time. Yeah, this is everything we really needed to talk about. There's other stuff in the deck that's cool. We can't cover it all today. We've got like Chandra's Ignition. We won't talk about it, but like if you know what Chandra's Ignition does and you know how it works in this deck with like a Tainted Strike, and let it drop in the comments. I know, but don't tell them. Don't tell them. Make them watch all the gameplay videos until it comes up eventually, and then they go, "Wow,
exactly. That's messed up.
That's dark. It's getting dark." It's getting dark. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. We've rambled on enough. I want feedback on this. Not sure how to execute deck text yet. It's really something I'd love to just showcase the entire deck that a person puts together for everybody to see. But I don't know that that's possible when you're looking at time constraints. Maybe we can do it like this, where we go over what the deck kind of wants to do, highlight cards that fill a certain role, and then provide the deck list and let everyone put it back. Put 2 and 2 together. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I will see you next time. Thanks.